Hello, all you beautiful, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of The Answers. And I hope that you all are doing good, that you are in your highest frequency and your highest energy. It is sun outside, at least in Sweden, but no matter whether, as I always say, it's about what's going on inside of you. I am actually now in Malmö when I'm recording, but I'm going to Barcelona this evening, and then I'm going to Palma in 2 days. So I'm going like Barcelona and then Palma to visit my children and my grandchildren. So for me, my frequency cannot be disturbed at all. I just love that so much. I mean, it's tough to have children abroad, but it also makes opportunities to have such high quality time with them, because always when with them we spend days together, so you have like a lot of quality time, and I fly frequent to them and they frequent to us, to Sweden of course. But it's also the whole traveling. We have talked about it, I have talked about it in previous episodes, the thing that you need to be open. I talk a lot about this on my Instagram, also on my reels, so you can follow me on Instagram with my name, Jeanette Winberg. Because this thing that we are open when we walk around, we have, when it comes to dating, we have passive, we have active, and we have online dating. So the online dating is of course online, you go on apps, and the active dating is you place yourself in certain events or mingles or single mingles or dinners or afterworks or anything. So you place yourself actively, or you're going out. But then we have the passive, the micro passive here. And that is what happens when you are in the elevator. Who do you meet? When you are walking outside, when you don't look down on your phone, all this, when you just are open, that smile that you get back, or when you give a smile, you talk to that dog, you talk to that lady. It doesn't matter who it is. It can be a lady 80 years old. It can be a guy that is like 12 years old. It doesn't really matter. When you are open, your whole frequency will change and shift, because now you do not think in transactions. You just are in an open receiving energy. And the stories that you get, the people that you meet, it's so interesting, because each and one of us have a story that we do not know anything about. So what is this person? Who is this person? And the connection you can make, and the love that can appear, or friendship, or business, it's just amazing. And while I'm traveling, as I will also do tonight, I'm always very, very open. I look at people, I get eye contact. And then you say to me, okay, maybe you are an introvert. Yeah, you can be. You don't need to be this happy, extroverted person, talk to everyone, but still open in energy. Open in energy. Yeah, there's a huge difference. Just so you can look and you can see, you can have eye contact even if you are introverted. So think about that, reflect on that. Are you looking up, or are you looking down in your energy when you are moving, when you're traveling, when you go from point A to point B, right? So just a little bit heads up and a reflection before we start. Today, I want to dig into a topic that is about waiting, because most of us are waiting. And as you know, this is a podcast that is for you. Just 2 seconds. Okay. Where you can actually be honest with yourself, and that you can feel deeply, and you can heal deeply, and you can reflect deeply. So you're like safe enough in this podcast when you are listening to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be emotional, to be spiritual, and fully yourself without any kind of judgment. So when I talk about different topics, as today, when it comes to waiting, I just want you to be in yourself, be open to the self-worth, the change, your patterns, the transformation, the self-sabotaging, the energies, right? So that you also can shift a little bit into the deeper level, and so that you can slowly now start to return back home to yourself in a world that often teaches you to abandon your emotions instead of understanding them, because that is what's happening. We're also living in a highly masculine world, I would say, performance. So when you reflect really inside of yourself, that teaches you not to abandon your emotions, instead of understanding them. This is why this podcast exists. This is why I voice it. So now we go to waiting. And even if you just feel the word, just feel the word waiting, it's just exhausting word. It is just a waiting. It is not a high energy in that word, right? It can be, though. I will come to that later in this episode. There is a twist here. But when you just feel waiting, if I say waiting to 10 people, 10 clients, I don't think any of them would say, yeah, I like that, because we do not like to wait. All right. So we need to now see what is happening when you are in waiting too long. What's the positive? What's the negative? What's the frequency in the different kinds of waiting? When I speak to my clients, there is a lot of waiting. Maybe they will change. Maybe they will shift. Maybe I will change. Maybe circumstances will change. What you see is what you get, right? So even if things will change, you need to look at what happens now and the investment that is now, and not wait for potential to be real, because the whole energy circle around you will now be on hold. Waiting is actually putting you on hold for everything, for everything. Sitting and waiting for someone else's energy to shift. Okay, so now, there is a specific kind of pain here in the waiting that I think everyone has experienced here. Um, I have been a lot in my waiting. I think also very few people truly talk about this deeply because there is a shame in it, and the pain that comes from waiting. There is such a pain with waiting for many of you, because waiting can look so innocent, while it slowly drains your nervous system, your energy, your peace, your confidence, your clarity, your ability to stay present in your own life without any emotionally orbiting around another person, another possibility, another fantasy, or another future that may never ever fully arrive. Still, yet you are waiting. You're waiting, so it's painful, but maybe that future will never arrive. You're waiting for something in your head that is not happening in real, okay? And that hits your confidence. Of course, it hits your clarity. So now we never speak about this because there is actually a shame involved here, or not a guilt, but a shame. So when we are in the waiting, what things do we wait about? So I want you, before I speak now, to reflect. In what arena are you waiting? I mean, where are you just sitting and waiting for something to change, for you to be happy, or for you to move on, or for you to take the next step? Where in your life are you on hold? Reflect on that. Now, we can be on hold, or we can be in a waiting when it comes to waiting for a text, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone to choose you, waiting for consistency, waiting for closure, yeah, waiting for the relationship to become what it almost became, waiting for someone to become emotionally available, waiting for timing to finally align, waiting. And the dangerous thing about waiting is that it does not always feel painful in the beginning. No, because sometimes waiting feels romantic, hopeful, spiritual, meaningful, or even beautiful, especially when you deeply care about someone. You recognize this. You're waiting because you want that person to come into your life again. And when you feel emotionally connected to someone that has potential, because hope here can feel so toxic when your heart wants something so bad. When you really want something, and the heart gets so toxic, I think you can recognize that is a waiting, that is on hold. Slowly now, waiting starts to drain your nervous system, your self-worth, your peace, your presence, and your ability to fully live your life. Because emotionally, you are no longer fully here anymore, fully connected to yourself anymore, fully connected to reality anymore. Because a part of your emotional world becomes trapped inside anticipation, possibility, longing, and emotionally uncertainty. You are trapped. You are in a prison here. Yeah. And today I really want to talk about the psychology behind the waiting. Because when you are emotionally waiting for someone, somebody, you are not fully living anymore. You are emotionally paused. You are emotionally suspended between reality and fantasy. And sometimes you do not even realize how much of your emotional energy is being consumed now. It's consumed by hope, uncertainty, overthinking, emotional attachment, and the constant search for clarity. And this is painful. And I know this because I have done this journey. I've been in this, waiting for clarity. That has been my journey in all of this waiting for that answer, waiting for them to finally come back with that answer. But it didn't happen. So for me, in my journey, I overgave, I over-explained, I over-forgave. Yeah. Just to have a contact with that person that I so desperately wanted to sugar into my life. And I did that many times. They always came back and I always forgave them. Did it last over time? No, because it cannot. There is no respect. There is no respect when you are just in that energy, that you are just in the waiting mode. They will keep you waiting always. So you need to shift that and get back into your power and to your choice, because this is your choice. Yeah. We can tell someone, sorry, that we like them and that we will wait, but life keeps moving. So your energy needs to keep moving here. Okay. Now, waiting rarely looks like this, because waiting is rarely just waiting. We think that waiting is just waiting. No. If I do like this, what is waiting? How does really waiting look like? It's rarely only the waiting. It's also about waiting is an attachment. Waiting is fear. Waiting is hope. Waiting is fantasy. Waiting is emotional addiction. Waiting is a grief disguised as possibility. And if you have ever felt unable to move on from someone who gave you inconsistency, confusion, mixed signals, emotional distance, or almost love, then exactly this episode is so for you. I want you to really pay attention here. Pay attention. Waiting is grief disguised in possibility. Powerful, right? So powerful. Now, this is why waiting becomes addictive. We become addicted to the waiting. And now you think, how can I be addicted to waiting? Yes, because it's also a dopamine thing here. One of the first things you need to hear is to understand that uncertainty creates emotional intensity. And this is something that many people misunderstand because they think intensity automatically means love, depth, soulmate connection, chemistry, or destiny. Or when sometimes intensity is simple what happens when your nervous system becomes emotionally activated by unpredictable and emotional inconsistency. Not certainty, not stability, not, this is uncertainty. It's not certain. It's like, it's okay. We do it again so you really understand. It's not certainty. It is not stability. It is uncertainty. So I get it right. I stumble over the words here sometimes. Okay. Now, because when someone is fully available, fully present, emotionally clear, emotionally safe, emotionally consistent, and generally choosing you, your nervous system can finally relax, breathe, and soften, and feel safe enough to stop constantly searching for reassurance. But when somebody now is emotionally distant, unpredictable, inconsistent, hot and cold, avoidant, confusing, or unclear about the intentions with you, your brain starts to search for resolution constantly, because the nervous system naturally wants emotionally safety and emotionally certainty. That's how it works, no matter. And as you know, nervous system doesn't know difference between good and bad, only familiarity. It drives and it takes you back to the uncertainty. You begin checking now your phone more often than usual because your nervous system becomes hyper focused on signs, signals, reassurance, and emotional confirmation. You begin checking your phone like every time, even when you eat, you have the phone beside you. So you get addicted also to your phone now. You replay conversations over and over and over in your mind again, trying to find hidden meaning inside of small, small details. You start looking for signs everywhere. You analyze energy more deeply. You overthink tiny moments. You become emotionally consumed by what if? What if? And suddenly your entire emotional world becomes centered, tiny moments, around these tiny, tiny, tiny breadcrumbing moments. And that should never have that much power over your emotional state at the first place. It is exactly when clients come to me and they say, I get rejected. Something is wrong with me. I get rejected from this person I have met 2 hours on a date. And I say, how can that be that that person you have known for 2 hours can get that power over you, that you feel that you are a bad person or not good enough? Over 2 hours with a person, how can that person get that power? No matter who says what or think what or feels what, the power is in you. Don't give that away to others, to have confirmations from others to value your worth. All right? Ever, never. So this what if, take that away. So that is why your entire emotional world becomes centered around this, because you want that validation. So think about it. Who do you give your power away to? So you go back to yourself. A text message now, a simple text message can suddenly change your whole mood for the entire day. And a delayed replay, this I know for sure. When I don't get the text back, I can get like, what the fuck? If I can be totally honest, what is happening here? I want to have the clear answer what's happening. But why is that? That is only because I want something to be put out inside of me, the fire inside of me, the anxiety inside of me. I want that in a text instead of observing the colors now. Look at the colors. What is being shown to you? You don't need to react that fast. You don't need the confirmation here. You need to observe. That person comes and goes, hot and cold, cold and hot. That is observation. Now you go to validation and you go to statement. Is that what you want in your life? Because if someone shows you a color, why do you want that person in the first place? Why do you chase that person? If they are showing you they are not emotionally available, that should be very uninteresting for you. So instead of waiting for that answer, waiting for that clarity, you can look at patterns here from that person. You can ask. Maybe you get an answer, maybe you don't. But this is an observation. Go into validation, go into statement. Okay? So, because this is emotionally very, very, very painful, it starts confusing you, like totally. And it starts confuse you with emotional activation now with love. Because you think sometimes this is love when they come back. Because emotionally activated people, when you are that, you often feel deeply attached, deeply consumed, deeply emotional invested. And even when the connection itself is inconsistent or unstable, confusing or emotional painful, you're still there investing. But being emotional activated is not always the same as being deeply loved. Okay, I know this is painful for you to hear, but that is how it works. That is the truth from the soul here. Sometimes it is simply your nervous system trapped inside uncertainty. It's just trapped. I think you can feel it now, because uncertainty creates dopamine, and dopamine thrives inside anticipation, unpredictability, emotionally highs and lows, and intermittent emotional rewards. Your brain now becomes obsessed with maybe. Maybe this person will come back. Maybe this person is scared. Maybe timing is wrong. Maybe this person secretly loves you. Maybe this connection is deeper than logic. And the truth is, maybe can keep you emotionally trapped for years. For years. Because uncertainty follows and allows fantasy to survive while reality remains unclear enough for hope to continue now to feeding itself emotionally. I want to repeat this because this is so important. I want you to really listen to what I say now. Truth is, maybe a maybe here, a true maybe, can keep you emotionally trapped for years because uncertainty allows fantasy to survive while reality remains unclear enough for hope to continue being fed, you know, emotionally. And the truth is, do you want this? Reflect. Do you want this? Do you want to be trapped in a maybe? Do you want that? Do you want your soul, your life to be trapped in a maybe? Is that who you are becoming? The maybe. When this happens, it's not because the connection was necessarily extraordinary or healthy or online or deep loving, but because uncertainty keeps fantasy alive, and we like fantasy. Reality ends fantasy. That's what's happening. And we create worlds and inner stories in our minds. And we want to keep that fantasy because without that fantasy, everything goes empty. You are now in nowhere. You're in a transit in a nowhere. You don't want that. So you keep on this fantasy. Reality ends fantasy. Clarity ends fantasy. And truth ends fantasy. But waiting keeps fantasy breathing, right? So we stay in the waiting. We stay stuck in the dating. The fantasy of potential, what is happening now? One of the hardest truths to accept emotionally, what is going on, is that sometimes you are not actually attached to what truly happened inside the relationship or connection in the first place. It's all in your mind. Sometimes you are attached to what could have happened, what almost happened, what you were imagining happening, or what you hoped would eventually happen if this person finally healed, changed, chose you fully, become emotionally available, or became the version of themselves you kept emotionally believing in. You are attached now to potential and fantasy. And potential is seductive because it lives inside imagination. And imagination is a perfect, of course, because imagination allows you to create emotional stories that reality itself never fully confirmed. Reality never confirmed that fantasy, but you want to keep that fantasy. You hold on to that fantasy because otherwise reality checks in. So you want to keep that. In imagination now, I'm sorry, some water. I always lose my, I'm so sorry. I always lose my voice when it comes to like the half episode, as you have noticed. Look, now in imagination, the person finally chooses you. Now we take that again, actually, because this is the fantasy and this is the imagination. In the imagination now, when you're stuck and trapped in your imagination, in that fantasy, in your imagination, the person finally chooses you. This person finally heals. This person finally becomes emotionally available. This person finally realizes your worth. This person finally loves you correctly. But reality is often very different from your fantasy. And sometimes the connection itself was actually confusing, emotionally draining, inconsistent, emotionally unavailable, painful, and unstable. While now the fantasy around the connection became beautiful because your mind kept emotionally building a future that reality itself really truly never guaranteed or shown you. This is all in your mind. There is a saying, that we are hurting more in our fantasy than in reality. Because as we build these stories in our heads and in our souls and in our hearts, and when that is not happening in the reality, we hurt. This is a pain. But reality never ever guarantee this or show this. So sometimes you stay emotionally attached because relationship itself was so beautiful, but because the fantasy was beautiful, not because the relationship itself was beautiful. Can you also relate to that? Because I can. I have had relationships that when we checked out, or he left me or I left him, and I look back at that relationship, I see the beauty, I see the pink flowers here, the pink butterflies. But when I really look at it, like really look at it, I can see it was not that good, but my mind made it good. So I wanted it back, right? I was in pain for something I had built up in my fantasy, but wasn't guaranteed in the reality. This is why you keep being stuck in the prison of waiting sometimes. Yeah, you're waiting for something that has never been shown. So this is why almost, or like an almost relationship can hurt even more than actually relationships. Sometimes because actually endings often brings clarity, while almost connections leaves your nervous system emotionally suspended inside unresolved possibility. Now again, we connect it back to the fantasy that we get, the imagination, because nothing fully ended, nothing fully began, and there was no real conclusion, only possibility. And as soon as we have hope and possibility there in our minds, we start to create stories. We start to create stories here in our heads. And possibility can be so emotionally addictive. I see this, I do a lot of one-to-ones every day, and I'll also do courses and webinars. If you are stuck in the waiting, reach out to me and we will do some sessions together and we will shift your mind here. This is so addictive. Possibility can become so emotionally addictive. And trust me, I've done this journey. The whole goal, the whole day, the whole energy thrives around that person. And you lose your own energy. You lose your own soul because your focus is totally on something else that actually does not exist in reality. Okay? This is not even the person anymore. It's not about the person. You think it's about the person, but it's not. The waiting, it's about the waiting, the checking, the hoping, the fantasizing, the emotional highs and lows, the anticipation. Because when your nervous system becomes used to inconsistency, calm love can almost feel emotionally flat, flatline. And as it does that at first, it becomes chaos created emotional intensity, and emotional intensity became confused with emotional depth. That is what happens here. Now you think that emotional intensity is a depth, but it's not. It's the calm emotional connection that is real love, right? This does not happen when you are single or emotionally attached to someone unavailable. It can happen in many different arenas, not only that arena when you are searching for someone and you're single and you attract all the emotional unavailable people into your life and you think, what is happening here? It can also happen in different arenas. It can also happen, or you can experience this in a relationship. You can wait for someone to change. You can wait for emotional intimacy. You can wait for effort. You can wait for emotional maturity. You can wait for the version of the relationship you keep hoping will appear one day. Now you're stuck in a relationship, but you want it to change. So you stay and you hope and you are waiting. Now check again. Is it your story in your head, or is it actually something happening in real? Is it guaranteed in real? Is there action here? Do not stay in the waiting. All right, because this can happen in every arena, also business. Years can pass while you are emotionally just surviving, or you live on potential instead of reality. You live for what can be. You are in the waiting zone. Because sometimes the wound is not rejection. Sometimes the wound is believing that love must be earned through patience, suffering, overgiving, emotional endurance, emotional self sacrifice, or waiting long enough for someone to finally choose you correctly. If you feel what I said right now, do you believe in that? I don't. Because if you grew up, for example, emotionally unseen, emotionally abandoned, emotionally confused, or inside emotionally inconsistent environments in any kind of way, the emotional inconsistency may feel strangely familiar to you and to your nervous system, which means waiting can unconsciously feel like love because your body learned to that love is just uncertain. This is how you were trained. That is why healing is not only learning how to let go of people. Healing is also learning how to stop romanticizing emotional unavailability. Do not enter the waiting room. Do not. Your life will be on hold in every arena, and you will be stuck in your own stories and not the reality. We make a life example. Imagine you date someone for, 6, 7, 8 months, and this person keeps saying, I really care about you. I just need time. I am confused. I'm healing. I'm not ready yet. And every few weeks, this person gives you enough affection, just enough intimacy, all right? Just enough emotional closeness and just enough hope to keep the connection emotionally alive inside of you, okay? Inside of your heart. And even though the relationship itself never fully moves forward, there's no progression in a healthy, grounded, stable, emotional, secure direction now, you are there. You will wait. You will think like this. Maybe the person holds your hand. Maybe this person calls late at night. Maybe this person says they miss you, even they love you. Maybe this person talks future with you for one beautiful moment that is emotionally staying in your mind for weeks afterwards as you just heard it. And suddenly your heart keeps investing in a future that never fully arrives just because that person just talked a brief moment about the future. Now it stays in your mind and in your story, but it never fully arrives because emotionally you become attracted not only to the person, but to the possibility of who this person could become one day if everything finally got aligned. Yeah. So they, again, maybe they hold your hand, maybe they calls you late at night, maybe they say they miss you, they love you. And as soon as they talk about planning a holiday or something in the future, now boom, you are stuck in that fantasy. You're stuck there. But we need to look at the colors being shown, right? Not in the fantasy in our head. Because there was no commitment now. There was emotional possibility. That's two totally different things. And this is where waiting slowly now becomes self-abandonment, because little by little, your emotional world starts revolving around somebody else's emotional availability, emotional readiness, emotional healing, emotional growth, emotional timing, or emotional confusion instead of revolving around your own peace, your own life, your own future, and your own emotional well-being. No, now it's all about that person, the possibility, the potential. So let's talk about the other side as well, because sometimes somebody consciously or unconsciously keeps you emotionally waiting without fully realizing how emotional damaging confusion can actually become over time for the other one. Sometimes somebody enjoys emotional access without emotional responsibility, which means this person wants comfort of your presence, of course, the emotional support you give, the validation you provide, the intimacy, the affection, the loyalty, and the emotional safety of knowing that you are still there, while still avoiding full commitment, emotional clarity, emotional accountability, or fully choosing you. That person instead wants your attention, your comfort, your emotional support, your validation, your intimacy, your affection, your loyalty without fully choosing you. So this person keeps the door slightly open emotional, not fully open, not fully closed, just open enough for you to hope to survive. Yeah. And often this happens because this person is afraid, it's in fear, afraid of commitment, afraid of intimacy, afraid of hurting you in some way or hurting you directly, afraid of loneliness, afraid of losing access to love while remaining emotional available, afraid of losing themselves, often in the avoidance spectrum or emotional unavailable people. So instead of giving clarity now, this person gives confusion, inconsistency, mixed signals, emotional breadcrumbs, temporary closeness, yeah, emotional distance, and just enough affection to keep the emotional connection alive without building something real. That is. And confusion is emotionally so exhausting for everyone because your nervous system is constantly searching for emotional safety, emotional grounding, emotional understanding, and emotional certainty. And when clarity never comes, you remain psychologically stuck inside emotional anticipation and unresolved attachment. This is why mixed signals can hurt even more than rejection do sometimes. Mixed signal is awful. And to people who give hot and cold, stop it. Just say, I need time, I need space, do anything, but don't give mixed signals. Never, ever, do not ever accept mixed signals. Rejection ends the loop. Confusion prolongs the loop. And that makes you stuck in the waiting room. Now, the ego, sometimes waiting is not even about love anymore. Have you noticed that? It's not, it's like playing chess somehow. Sometimes waiting becomes connected to ego, identity, validation, emotional worthiness, and the deep human desire to finally feel chosen, chosen enough, and being important, being lovable, being emotionally significant. Because when somebody does not fully choose you, part of you can become emotionally obsessed, like really obsessed with finally winning the love. Is it about the love? No. You just want the attention, the validation, or the commitment that never fully arrived, the proof to your worth, to finally be enough, to finally be chosen. And suddenly the connection becomes tied to your identity or your emotions. If this person chooses me, it means I'm lovable. If this person comes back, it means I mattered. If this person commits, it means I'm enough. But your worth was never supposed to be built on another person's emotional capacity, emotional readiness, emotional healing journey, or inability to love you correctly. Some people cannot love that deeply. It's just how it is. Not because you're hard to love, but because not you, are disconnected from themselves emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, and relationally. Like they cannot have a relationship. And you can waste so many years trying to earn love from emotionally unavailable people because your nervous system mistakes emotional inconsistency for emotional importance. I see this so often with my clients. And I really, after this episode, I wanted to truly reflect. Why are you in the waiting room? Let's go a bit spiritual. We need to do that. What happens here from the spiritual spectra? Spiritually, waiting can become resistance to life itself. Because while you are emotionally waiting for one person, one answer, one moment, one future, or one version of reality to finally arrive to life itself. Life continues to move. Life continues to move forward around you every single day. New experiences are trying to enter your life. New people are trying to enter your life. A new version of you is trying to emerge. But emotionally, you remain standing at a closed door, praying it will open again, because part of your heart still believes that the answer to your healing, your happiness, your peace, or your emotional fulfillment exists behind that emotional attachment, that person. And sometimes the universe is not asking you to wait. Sometimes the universe is asking you to release. And spiritually now, waiting can sometimes become attachment to divine timing. And it's in an unhealthy way too, because sometimes you convince yourself that waiting is intuition, waiting is loyalty, waiting is faith, waiting is destiny, or waiting is proof that the connection is spiritual, meaningful. But sometimes you are not listening to your intuition. Sometimes you are listening to your wound, because wounds can spiritually be there too, especially when your heart does not want to let go. And especially when your nervous system has become emotionally attached to hope and fantasy and longing and emotionally uncertainty and the addiction of almost love. One of the hardest spiritual lessons is understanding that not every intense connection is meant to become a lifelong relationship. Some connections arrive to awaken you, not to stay with you forever. Some people are not soulmates in the romantic sense. Some people are soul mirrors. And the connection here, it triggers your abandonment wounds, your self-worth wounds, your visibility wounds, your attachment wounds. And once the lesson awakens, your soul has to decide, will you stay attached to the wound or will you evolve beyond it? Because healing often begins the moment you stop waiting for somebody else to save you emotionally. Yeah, you can do that yourself. Now we have an opposite, and that is when actually waiting is healthy. At the same time, it's also to understand, it's important to understand that not all waiting is unhealthy, emotionally damaging, or rooted in emotional wounds, because healthy waiting absolutely exists too. This is one of my biggest lessons in life, the healthy part of waiting. I don't like waiting. Who likes waiting? But sometimes it's actually a part of the healing to learn to wait. Sometimes. Healthy waiting is when you are still filling your life, living your life full. You're not like in the waiting room being stuck in a prison. You're still living your life to the fullest. You're fully connected to yourself. You're fully emotionally grounded and fully respecting yourself while allowing something to unfold naturally without forcing, chasing, controlling, obsessing, abandoning. You know, you don't abandon yourself emotionally or passing your entire identity around another person or another outcome. Healthy waiting does not pass your identity. It does not consume your peace. It does not disconnect you from yourself emotionally. Healthy waiting is grounded, it's calm, it's mature, it's emotionally safe, it is self-respecting. Instead of emotionally obsessive, emotionally chaotic, emotionally consuming, or emotionally painful. For example, waiting before rushing into love, waiting while building trust, waiting while healing, waiting while learning patience, or waiting for alignment instead of forcing outcomes. That kind of waiting is not suffering. That kind of waiting is wisdom. That's wisdom. The difference is the healthy waiting still allows you to connect to yourself, while unhealthy waiting slowly disconnects you from your own life emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and energetically. You see the difference, it's a huge difference. So, healthy waiting, yes, that's very, very important. Now, the cost of waiting, let's go to the cost. Waiting costs more if you're in the waiting room than you actually realize, because emotionally, waiting slowly drains your emotional energy from every part of your life, while you often do not even notice how much of yourself that is disappearing inside overthinking, emotional anticipation, fantasy, longing, uncertainty, and unresolved emotional attachment. Because this will cost you presence, peace, self-trust, energy, creativity, and confidence and openness, joy in life. It costs you joy and presence, receiving. Because when you are emotionally waiting, you are not fully here. You're just not. You're always somewhere else. Part of you is always someone else mentally, checking and wondering, hoping, imagining, replaying everything in your mind. And eventually, life starts passing by while you are emotionally in orbit around the unresolved connection or unresolved hope or unresolved emotional fantasy that keeps your nervous system emotionally attached to possibility instead of reality. Yeah. This is why one of the deepest forms of healing is learning to return to yourself emotionally and spiritually and mentally and energetically. To stop making another human being the center of your emotional universe, to stop measuring your worth through somebody else's attention, to stop place your future inside somebody else's confusion. The moment everything changes now is when you finally realize that clarity is love. Because someone who genuinely wants you, values you, respects you, and sees the future with you usually creates movement toward you instead of endless confusion around you. Healthy love may move slowly sometimes, but it does not keep you emotionally starving, emotionally anxious, emotionally suspended, emotionally confused, or emotionally addicted to uncertainty for long periods of time. And one of the most powerful moments in healing is when you no longer need certainty from another person in order to choose peace for yourself. Because emotionally maturity begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself emotionally while waiting for someone else to finally become ready to love you correctly. Because closure is not always a conversation. Sometimes closure is setting reality clear. Sometimes closure is accepting. If the person truly wanted to build this with me, they would. Not perfectly, not flawless, but clearly. And this is not bitterness. No, it's emotional maturity that happens here. Now, as the ending here, if you are currently waiting for someone, I want you now to ask yourself, are you waiting because the connection is truly aligned? Or are you waiting because uncertainty has emotionally hooked you and because part of your nervous system became addicted to hope, possibility, emotional fantasy, or the emotional intensity created by inconsistency? Are you in love with reality or are you in love with potential in your fantasy? And most importantly, how much of your life have you postponed emotionally while waiting to be chosen? Because your life is happening now, not when the person texts you, not when the person heals you, not when the person returns, not when the person finally becomes ready. Now. And sometimes the greatest act of self-love is no longer waiting at the doors that never fully open. Now, this has been an intense episode. I hope that you really now reflect. Where are you? Are you living your life? Yeah, in a healthy waiting, or are you in the waiting room and everything is blocked here? Are you in the prison? Take a deep breath. And I want you now to repeat after me. I release the need to wait for love that is unclear. I deserve consistency, clarity, and emotional safety. My worth is not determined by another person's inability to choose me. I no longer confuse uncertainty with destiny. I trust myself enough to walk away from emotional confusion. I choose peace over emotional obsession. I stop abandoning myself while waiting for others to change. What is truly aligned with me will not require me to suffer for basic clarity. I release fantasy and return to reality with compassion for myself. I am no longer waiting for my life to begin because my life is already here. Thank you for being with me today in this episode. And if you want to contact me, you can do so on my email, info@janettewienberg.se, or all over the social media with my name, Janette Wienberg. So until next week, Wednesday, when I release the next episode, take care of yourself, stay true to yourself, and with lots of love from me to you.